New Banana Island, evaluating infrastructure ripe for diaspora investor in 2026 Lagos. There was a time when saying Banana Island in Nigeria meant for one thing: wealth, exclusivity, scarcity, and some of the most expensive real estate in Africa. But what if the next great Lagos investment story isn't actually on Banana Island? What if the bigger opportunity is being created several kilometers away through reclaimed land, new highways, ports, industrial zone, and entirely new economic corridor? Because Lagos is not simply expanding, its economic center of gravity is shifting. And the investors in Nigeria diaspora, that could be one of the most important developments to understand in 2026. But here is the question: does new infrastructure automatically create investment return? Absolutely not. Others will buy expensive land simply because somebody told them it was going to become the next Banana Island. And those two investors may be standing only a few kilometers apart. So how do you tell difference? Where exactly is this new investment geography? What infrastructure is actually being built? Which development could create genuine economic value? Which area may already be overpriced? And most importantly, if you are sitting in London, Madrid, Toronto, Austin, Johannesburg, or Dubai with money you want to buy invest in Nigeria, where should you be looking? Welcome to the Diaspora Project Media. Today we are going to inside one of Lagos' most fascinating emerging economic corridors. Not a property advertisement, not as a sale pitch, but as an investment intelligence briefing. And by the end of this documentary, you will understand why infrastructure rather than luxury building alone may determine who win and who lose in Lagos' next real estate cycle. Chapter 1: What exactly is New Banana Island? First, we need to clear up something important. There is no official Lagos state government project called New Banana Island. The phrase is largely a real estate and media description used for emerging luxury waterfront development. One of the most prominent examples of Orange Island, located roughly 1 kilometer from Lekki Phase 1 and next to Lekki Foreshore Reclaimed Area. According to the project's own documentation, Orange Island is a public-private partnership involving in Lagos State Government and Orange Island Development Company. The master plan covers 150 hectares of reclaimed land, including water feature. And this is where the story becomes interesting, because the project isn't designed simply as another estate. Its master plan allocates space for residential area, mixed-use development, commercial activity, public and institutional use, green areas and roads. In other words, the ambition is urban development, not simply housing. And that distinction matters enormous in investors, because a house can be appreciated because people want the house, but entire distinction can appreciate because economic activity moves towards it. Chapter 2: Why infrastructure change everything. Here is one of the most important principles in real estate investing. Location is not simply where a property is. Location is what the property can connect to. A piece of land beside nothing may remain cheap for decades. Put a major road beside it, a port nearby, an airport, and technology district, a manufacturing cluster, and suddenly the same land can become strategically important. This is why sophisticated investors don't only ask, how much is land here? They ask, what economic infrastructure is coming here? And around the Lekki corridor, there are several major pieces of that puzzle. The first is road infrastructure, the second is maritime infrastructure, the third is industrial infrastructure, and the fourth of the broader expansion of Lagos towards the eastern corridor. Together, this project can create something far more powerful than a luxury neighborhood. They can create an economic ecosystem. Infrastructure to access to economic activity to demand to value, then but demand equals to guaranteed ROI. Chapter 3, the coastal highway effect. Now we come to one of the most consequential piece of infrastructure in this entire story. The Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. The federal government described the project as a 750-kilometer coastal highway crossing 9 states. The Lagos section connects the Victoria Island area towards Eleko and beyond. A completed stretch was temporarily opened to traffic in December 2025, covering the Victoria Island Eleko corridor. By July 2026, the Federal Ministry of Work was reporting continuing work and inspection along completed and ongoing section. Why does this matter to an investor? Because roads don't merely move cars, they move land value. A major highway can reduce travel friction. It can connect previous isolated communities. It can make logistics cheaper. It can attract business. It can create new residential demand. And it can turn peripheral land into strategically located land. But there is a major warning here. Infrastructure appreciation is rarely uniform. Two plots can be 5 kilometers apart and have completely different investment perspective. Why? Because one may have direct access, the other may sit behind poor road. One may have clean title, the other may have ownership disputes. One be outside flood prone area, the other may be vulnerable to flooding. One may be close to actual economic activity, the other may simply be close to an advertised future project. This is where investment intelligence beats property hype. Infrastructure can create value, but location plus access, title plus demand determine ROI. The Federation of Information reported the opening of Victoria Island Eleko stretch in December 2025 and described the highway as a 750-kilometer project spanning 9 states. In July 2026, the Federal Ministry of Information also reported an inspection of completed and ongoing section and addressed flood mitigation concerns around the project. Chapter 4, the port that could rewrite the map. But the biggest infrastructure story may not be road, it may be port, because when major city get a modern deep sea port, the surrounding economy can change dramatically. The Lekki deep sea port is becoming increasingly important to Nigeria maritime economy, and by 2026 the number were beginning to tell the story. In May 2026, Lekki port reported handling 14 vessel calls, 11 barge calls and approximately 50,000 TEUs during the month. A new direct shipping service connecting northern Europe with Lekki was also announced in July. According to the reporting based on Nigeria Port Authority data, Lekki had reached a 40.6% share of Nigeria total cargo throughput. That is not simply a port story, it's a logistics story, and logistics creates secondary demand: warehouse, distribution center, truck service, cold storage, packaging, food processing, import businesses, export businesses, insurance, financial services, hospitality, staff housing, and eventually real estate. This is where diaspora investors should pay attention. You don't necessarily need to buy a mansion to benefit from an infrastructure boom. Sometimes the more intelligent investment is the business supplying the ecosystem. Chapter 5, the industrial engine. And then there is another piece of the puzzle, the Lagos Free Zone. This is where the story moved from luxury real estate into something much bigger. Industrialization. In February 2026, Lagos Free Zone announced approval for a custom green channel connecting free zone cargo directly between Lekki Deep Sea Port and the zone. That may sound like a technical custom development, but investors should understand what it represents. Friction reduction, every hour saved, every unnecessary checkpoint eliminated, every improvement in cargo movement, every reduction in logistic complexity can improve the economy of doing business. And when the economy is doing business improve, companies have a greater incentive to locate nearby. That creates jobs. Jobs create housing demand. Housing demand creates service demand. Service demand creates new businesses. And new businesses create another layer of investment opportunity. This is the infrastructure multiplier. Less friction, more trade, more businesses, more demand. Lagos Free Zone announced in February 2026 that Nigeria Custom had approved a green channel facilitating movement of free zone cargo between Lekki deep sea ports and the Lagos Free Zone. Chapter 6. This is not just a real estate story. Here is where this thing become even more interesting. If you look at this entire corridor only through this eye of the property buyers, you may miss the bigger opportunity. Imagine the ecosystem at the western end, Ikoyi, then Lekki Phase 1, then Orange Island and Lekki Foreshore. Further east, Lekki Epe, then industrial and free zone activity, and further along, Lekki Deep Sea Port. This is the beginning to look the less like a collection of disconnected developments and more like an imagined economic corridor. That changed the investment question. Instead of asking, will this house increase in value? The master question become, what economic activities will this infrastructure attract? And then, what business will supply the activities? That is where diaspora capital can become extremely powerful. Chapter 7. The Diaspora Investor Playbook. Let's make this practical. If you are in Africa living abroad and you are considering investing in this corridor, there are at least 5 different strategies. The simplest strategy is acquiring strategically located land and holding it for a long time. But this should never mean buying any cheap plot with the word future development attached to it. The investment case should be built around access, title, food risks, infrastructure, development pipeline, neighborhood quality, liquidity, and realistic demand. As economic activities increases, professionals need somewhere to live, but luxury apartments aren't automatically the best investment. The critical question is, who is the tenant, executive, expatriates, port workers, business owner, short stay visitor, families, students? Each segment has different economy. A 300 million naira apartment, weak rental demand may be a worse investment than a much cheaper property serving a strong employment corridor. If you are enjoying this deep dive analysis and want more exclusive story about African investment opportunity, take a second to like, subscribe to the Diaspora Project Media, like this video and share it with someone interested in African future. Your support helps us to continue producing premium documentary like this. Now let's talk about the part many property marketers won't emphasize: risk. Chapter 8. The Banana Island Comparison. So let's return to the original question. Can this become the next Banana Island? Perhaps, but that comparison needs to be handled carefully. Banana Island value isn't based on the building. It's based on scarcity, prestige, security, location, infrastructure, brand recognition, wealth concentration, and social signaling. The new generation development has to build those characteristics over time, and that's why calling something the new Banana Island doesn't make it one. That market has to prove it. Chapter 9. The Diaspora Advantage. For Africa in diaspora, there's another advantage. You have access to capital markets, professional network, technology and business knowledge outside Nigeria, but you also face a disadvantage: distance. You cannot personally inspect every property. You may not know the local political environment. You may not understand neighborhood dynamics. You may rely too heavy on agents. and unfortunately some investors have lost money because they invested from abroad based on photograph and WhatsApp promise. So this diaspora capital needs a different system. Before investing, get an independent lawyer, get an independent surveyors, verify the title, verify planning permission, verify the physical location, visit the site personally or through a trusted independent professional. Check flood history, check road access, check infrastructure completion rather than promises, check rental demand, check comparable sales, and most importantly, never let person selling the investment be the only person validating the investment. The last chapter, where the bigger opportunity may be. But perhaps the most interesting question isn't where should I buy land? It is what will Lagos need next? Think about what happens when infrastructure succeeds. More people move, more business arrive, more goods move, more professional work, more homes are needed, more restaurants open, more schools become necessary, more healthcare services are required, more warehouses are built, more electricity is consumed, more security is needed, more technology is deployed, and more financial services are created. Infrastructure creates secondary markets, and those secondary markets can make sometimes produce better risk adjust opportunity than the original infrastructure itself. If this documentary gave you a different way to look at Lagos investment opportunity, don't keep the information to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to the Diaspora Project Media, share it with an African entrepreneur, investor, or the diaspora professional who need to see this, and tell us what you think. Which country are you watching from? Drop it in the comment section. Which African industry do you think the most undervalued? Tell me in the comment section below and I will break it down in our next video.